What's up, guys? Welcome to Rhythm and Praise. Today we're going to be talking about the bass envelope filter. This is the 5th video in my Pedalboard series. Really excited about this one, so let's just jump right in. Now, this bass envelope filter, this is another bass-specific pedal made by MXR, their bass innovation line. It is a very popular pedal. It's been around for a bit. I think it's been upgraded once because there are a couple different finishes, so I'm guessing they're different versions. But essentially, it works the same. It is a bandpass filter. And it doesn't have all the controls that you might desire in some other filters, especially if you're using a synth pedal. You might have more control with those pedals depending on if they're fully digital. I know there are a lot out there. I can't remember the maker. I think it's C4 Audio. They make really good synth pedals that a lot of bassists use too. But this is a bare bones one that works extremely well for being basically analog. So I'm just going to go over a few things. A, how it works. B, the settings that are on it and some of the settings I like to use. And C, where it is in my chain. So it is the third pedal in my chain after the tuner, octave, and fuzz. Now, for you, wherever you want to put it, it's up to you. I would kind of use the same rules as the fuzz. It should be after the octave just because you want the octave to have the cleanest sound. But to be honest, some people have it after everything, minus maybe reverb and delay. Some people have it before their fuzz. Some people, like me, have it after their fuzz, but before their modulation. And some people have it at the very end of their chain, right? And depending on what pedals you have, like, you can experiment, right? And it's the same thing with the settings too. I mean, it depends on what you have and what you're using, how you set this thing. So I'm just going to go into now how I would set it. Or sorry, I'll go into now how it works first, okay? So you have your dry and your effects knobs. Those control the volume of the effect and your bass regular volume specifically, which is part of the reason why it's a bass innovation like line kind of pedal. A lot of pedals for guitar sound great on bass, but sometimes when you want to lay down a bass line, you have no low end at all, which kind of defeats the purpose of the bass being there in the first place. Now, for some genres, that works. In the case of this, or most genres, you still kind of want to hear some sort of low end coming from it. So you can turn up your signal, your dry signal, here in this. And not only does that work so you can hear your bass, but it works if you want to blend pedals and just hear the clean bass sound in there. Oh, it's so beautiful. So that's, the dry is a very good knob. You're going to be playing around with that to kind of try and match everything. The effects obviously is your effect. You can have it full, you can have it half, you can do whatever you want with it. The decay knob is the bottom left. And what that does is it controls the stop frequency. So when it goes ow, right, it will stop wherever you set it. So it's low. The lowest is to the left. I'm not sure what that frequency is. I'll do a little check in the manual here. So I believe it's 76 hertz. And then so that's the minimum one to the left. To the max, it's 32 kilohertz. Or sorry, 3.2 kilohertz. That'd be a lot of kilohertz. So, yeah, you can kind of control where it stops. Excuse me, control where it stops, and that will change the length of the wah. If that makes sense. Instead of like a wow, it'll be like a wow, wow. Like you can control where it's going by just controlling the stop frequency. The Q should be more of like an intensity knob or something like that. It controls how much of a wah you get in terms of its magnitude. If you turn it all the way down, you'll still get something, but it'll be very low. No matter how much you pluck, it will sound quiet or sound subtle. When you turn it up, no matter how quiet you pluck, it will sound very present. So again, this all kind of plays into what you have around the pedal as well, and what kind of style of music you're playing. The sensitivity knob is probably the most important to get right. So I would suggest you set that first, just to see how the pedal reacts to your fingers, because this essentially is tracking the signal of your bass. And it, depending on how hard you pluck, it's setting the threshold for where you will start to hear some effect, right? So I'm going to demonstrate that now. I'm going to turn everything to 50% so you can hear what I'm talking about. All right, so starting up. This is what it sounds like when I pluck normally. So you can probably hear, you didn't hear any wah. And that's because the sensitivity is too low. And I am not plucking hard enough. If I really, right, I can do that, but that doesn't really sound very good to me. So I am going to lower that to a much, or raise that to a much higher sensitivity. Maybe not much higher, but this is kind of, this is where you start to hear it, right? That's like the, not the sweet spot, but it's like the beginning of the threshold of me, right? But if someone else was to come and start plucking, they might have heard something at half, right? So it all depends on not only your fingers, but your bass itself. And this bass tends to be right there. It's not a defect in the pedal. It's not a defect in your bass. It depends on your fingers and the electronics and stuff. So no worries there. Now, once you figure that out, right, you can play around. And then you can start to change some of the other knobs, right? Now, part of, like I've already explained, right? This pedal works best when you're using the dry as well. If I was to just use the effect, right? Even if I turn it up, it sounds okay, but you can tell it's thinner. There's less low end, right? So that's the reason why I have it so, I usually have a little bit of dry signal in there. Now, I'm going to start to demo. Actually, before I do, I'll go over the other knobs, but after I'll demo the basic settings they got laid down there. So the decay knob, I'll let you hear what it sounds like when I change its position. So okay, well, let's keep going. Okay, so you could hear the lower it was, you heard the hair, whoa, like it was a huge kind of, whale kind of sounding wow. Whereas as I went up, it's much quieter now. Right? Doesn't sound bad, but it's a lot more subtle. So let's go to the Q. So you hear at the end there was really getting, it was very present. It was a lot more, it was a lot more, there's a lot more sound come, or it was a lot more present with me plucking the same. I didn't change the way I plucked the entire time. You can't see it, but I didn't. So that is kind of, if you wanted to play something where you're going like now, maybe if I was to turn the dry down and just use this, it sounds a little bit more present, right? Like you could, that's something that I could probably live with if I was just using the wah sound and not the dry sound. Not as thin as it, not as thin sounding as it was before. So, yeah, pretty cool. Anyway, so I'm gonna go over some of the three settings they got. The first one is bottom dweller, and they say it's a synth sound. So let's try it out. So right away, I think it's, so very nice sounding, very low sounding. The only thing I'd probably change is maybe up the intensity a bit. I mean, it's a little low sound. Let's try that. Ah, okay, I see. So right away you can hear, like, you got to be careful with this pedal. Is the one issue I found. It sometimes the low end can distort or be too much. Like I can even see on my interface it's starting to distort and clip, right? So you got to be careful with that. So maybe that's why they got it down a bit, but can also, you could increase the sensitivity. That might help out to, I actually liked it where it was before. The subtle one. Yeah, so that's where I'd probably keep it because it's nice and very yeah, synth bassy. The next one is bubble funk, which is kind of when you think about an envelope filter, this is what you're thinking about. I don't know all of the original OGs that used it, but I know Bootsy Collins was one, and yeah. So let's hear how that sounds. So that was a terrible rendition of Herbie Hancock and the Headhunters, but you can hear that kind of quacky, lasery sounding filter. I'd probably turn it back a bit here too. But it sounds really good. So another good setting for this pedal. The final one is called Gorilla Biscuit. So the only thing I'd say about this one is kind of sounds a little thin. So it's okay, but it sounds very, very lasery. But yeah, play around with this sound and kind of see what you can get from it. But not my favorite, but still decent. Now, I'm going to set it back to bottom dweller because that's my favorite, and then see what the octave pedal sounds like with it. All right, so right now, just so I can show you what I got, my octave pedal, I'm not going to show you, but I'm going to tell you. It's just the OC2 growl sound on the BOD. Okay? So I'm going to send that into the envelope. So this is lesson number 1 of trying to set things. Now, because I have a different signal going in, I have to make sure that I'm changing my sensitivity knob and some of the other effects to try and counteract that. Maybe even I'll have to turn down the Q. Try the Q first. I didn't like that, so I turned up the sensitivity. Okay, so kind of getting somewhere. I'd probably bring in some dry from the octave to see how that kind of pairs with it. So already we're a little better, maybe a little more dry. But you're kind of getting the point. I'd even turn up the dry now on the envelope filter. So yeah, it's a little bit older sounding of a bass tone, but the idea is now you're crafting synth tones, and yeah, that's pretty much how I use it. I do like to use it on its own too, but I think where the money of this pedal comes from is mixing it with others. To get that kind of different sound that you're looking for. So that's pretty much it. A little bit of a longer video, but hopefully it kind of shows you what you can do with this pedal. All right. That's it. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.